Good afternoon and welcome to this webinar on how money management can make or break your strategy. My name is Oleg Kavlishin. I'm a software developer here at FxPro. And just before we begin, please take a moment to read through this disclaimer. It simply states that the material in this webinar is to be considered as a marketing communication and not to be considered as any sort of advice on how you should or should not trade yourself. So please bear that in mind as you watch the webinar. And as always with our webinars, they're meant to be as interactive as possible. So if you have any comments or any questions or anything you wish to discuss during the webinar, provided that the questions are on topic, feel free to interrupt using our Q&A section. So this is something you'll find at the top panel above your screen, and you can just ask questions in the Q&A wherever you wish. So, and if it so happens that your questions are a bit off topic, then I'll do my best to answer them at the end of the session. So in this webinar, we'll be covering a range of money management methods. Of course, not all of them, but sort of the three main ones, because there are so many of them around. We just focus on the three main types, and hopefully you will see the different advantages of using one over the other, and hopefully it helps you decide which one you want to use. You will then be shown how to implement these ideas inside a strategy, inside the NEA using FxPro Quant, and it will be done just based on one of our existing strategies. So we'll take the ROI strategy and then add three different money management to them. And after that, you will see the actual effect on the strategy performance of using three different money management methods. And you can see, hopefully, which one will be the right for you, and how the choice of money management can make or break your strategy. So first of all, this is something from a previous webinars that you might have seen around. It's a very simple chart, but it's very powerful at the same time. So all it shows is if you have lost 8% of your account, for you to go to get back to your original balance, you will need to gain 9%. So it's just because of the way the mathematics works. It's just if you lost $8, let's say, out of 100, then for you to make $8, that will be already 9% of your balance, of your reduced balance, which was $92 at the time. And this effect grows almost exponentially. So if you, for example, lost 25% of your account, then you have to go back to your original balance, you have to gain 25%. And in more extreme cases, if you lost half of your account, let's say you had 1,000 and you lost 500, then for you to go back to your original balance, you have to double your account. So you have to gain 100%. So you have to double your balance of 500 just to go back to your balance of 1,000. And that just shows how big losses can create for you an unassailable obstacle. You have a huge mountain to climb to recover the losses. So that's why money management can be so important, because the idea is you ensure that you do not lose too much, that you are less likely to end up in this situation where you lost half of your account, and then you have to double your account simply to get back to where you used to be, just to recover your original account. And hopefully this will be illustrated a lot in more greater detail during the webinar. So if anything is unclear so far, anything about this chart or exactly the way these numbers work, please feel free to ask in Q&A. Otherwise, we'll move on to just generally going through the money management methods. Right, I guess everything is clear. So first one we'll cover is one you might have heard of before. It's martingale. So what it simply does is every time you make a loss on your trade, it doubles the lot size. So if you trade in one lot and you made a loss, then your next trade will be 2 lots. And if you made a loss again, then it will be 4 lots, and so on. And the idea is you increase your risk to recover your losses. So if you, let's say, lost £10 in one lot, then you trade 2 lots next time and hopefully recover all the losses that you made and more. And essentially the method does not accept short-term losses. So if you made one losing trade, you then double up on the next trade to recover from it, and then essentially you don't see the effect of the loss on your account since it's immediately recovered, but at the cost of a higher risk. So the downside of using martingale, of course, is that you can have your entire account destroyed. So if you have if you double up every time, you go from one lot to two lot, 4, 8, 16, and 32, and eventually you the final trade, if that hits your stop loss, then your entire account could be lost, and that's obviously the main disadvantage of martingale. It does not accept short-term losses, but then eventually leads to a big loss of the account when you have a lot of consecutive ones. So its success of this money management method depends on a low probability of consecutive losses. So the only reason when it loses your account if you had a lot of losses in a row. So if you had, let's say, 6 losing trades or 10 losing trades in a row, that's when the martingale strategy suffers. So it actually depends on your strategy having at least 1 or 2 winning trades in between the losing ones, and then it sort of ignores the short-term losses and quickly recovers them with the increased risk. So I hope all that was clear. Once again, if anything is unclear, if we're going too fast, please feel free to ask any questions in Q&A. The next money management is a very straightforward one. It's just fixed lot. You risk the same cash value every time you trade, completely regardless of whether you made profit or you lost on your previous trade. Just let's say if you trade one lot, then you just trade one lot every time. It's simple to understand and simple to implement. Whenever you either trading or developing a strategy, for algorithmic trading, you always just trade fixed lot, and that's the simplest way of doing these things. So it's useful to measure strategy performance whenever you want to, especially backtest your strategy or forward test it on demo. If you trade with a fixed lot every time, you can sort of see how it the net output of it it's not affected by the short-term losses, and you can see whether it makes profits on average or not. So this is very clear when you trade in fixed lot. The one thing you might not notice is that this risk is increasing as the strategy makes losses. So if you've been trading one lot on a 10,000 account and then you lost, let's say, 1,000 out of it, then you're still trading one lot on a 9,000 account, then your cash risk is still the same, but risk as a percentage of account has increased simply because your account dropped. And the same goes in the opposite direction. Risk is reduced as the strategy generates profits. So if your strategy is successful and makes more and more money, and you went from 10,000 account to 15,000, well, you're still trading the same fixed lot, so the risk as a percentage of your account has actually reduced. So it's a bit counterintuitive. If you make money, you actually risk less, and if you lose money, you risk more. So essentially, betting more of your higher percentage of your account on a strategy that is actually losing. So to contrast that is a fixed risk percentage money management. So what you do is just risk the same percentage of your account on each trade. So you don't risk the same lot, but you calculate what is your account balance or account equity, and then your lot size and your trade volume depends on that. So as your account trading volume changes in this case, so as account balance equity goes up, the trade volume goes up and the lot size goes up, and same in reverse. As so for any strategy that is successful, the trade size is automatically increased, and for any strategy which is not successful, performs badly, the trade lot size decreases automatically as well. So it sort of rewards the profitable strategy and penalizes the ones that perform badly. It's done automatically. It's simply by calculating what is your current balance and current equity, and then working out a lot based on that. So these are the three main money management methods that we covered in this webinar. They there are a lot of variations on them, but especially in terms of how you calculate percentage and how exactly you implement your martingale. But they tend to be the three main ones that are used around forex trading. So if anything was unclear about any three of them so far, I'm sure most of you already know them by now. You can feel free to ask in the Q&A. Otherwise, we'll go to actual numbers of comparison. So what we get in this case is an example of scenario 1, which is just a random trading strategy. So you can see we have initial balance of 1,000. We have a risk-reward ratio of 1:1. So we just where the win $10 or we lose $10. So whatever we risk, so let's say we risk $10 here, so then we either gain 10 or we lose 10. Then that's just to keep this thing simple. Overall risk reward ratio will not really be affecting your performance of your strategy, so it's just kept as 1:1 in this case. Initial balance as 1,000, just to have a round number. Scenario 1 is just a random trading strategy, so it does win, lose, win, lose, win, lose, and it's a 50-50 chance of winning or losing, and just distributed like that. So you can see in this case, martingale actually performs better, because let's say in the first win, you just go from 1,000 to 1,010, then you lose 10, go back to 1,000, but in this case, every time you lose, the martingale will make sure you double your exposure. So in this case, you went from risking 10 to risking 20, and you regained your losses and you went back to 1,020. And then whenever you won, you go back to your original risk of just $10, so 10 of your preferred currency. So you drop down to once again you make a loss, you drop down to 1,010, and then once again you double your exposure and you go back to 1,030. So at the end of it all, this is actually incorrect. There should be there should be a bet of 20, and you should go back to 10,050. So there should actually be 10,050 in this case. There's just a mistake on my part. So the last trade should have been a bet of 20 and a profit of 1,050. So in this case, in situations like this, the point is in the case when you have short-term losses and then you have followed by wins immediately, martingale performs better than fixed lot. So in case of fixed lot, you just go back to you just oscillate. You win $10, you lose $10, and just go back and stay pretty much on the same level. And the same goes with the risk per trade. Risk percentage of the account. Your lot size pretty much stays the same, because even though your account goes up and down, it doesn't change significantly. So your lot size is almost fixed. And in this case, there is no great advantage of choosing between these two. And martingale performs well only because it ignores short-term losses at the expense of a higher risk. So if we consider scenario 2, this is a strategy where you have a whole string of losses followed by 2 wins. So you have 5 losses in a row, and then eventually you do have 2 wins. And once again, martingale in this case performs well because it does not accept any of these short-term losses. You can see it increases the lot size. It goes from 10, 20 to 40 to 80, 160, and 320. So in this case, it was losing, and the account went as low as 690, and then eventually recovered all of its losses and then made even more profits afterwards and went back to its small trading size. And for the fixed lot, it of course made a loss because we had more losses when we had wins. We had 5 losses and 2 wins, so it made a net loss of $30 in this case. The fixed percentage loss performed more or less the same. Its lot size in this case, you can see, was reducing, so each time it was risking less and less and less, but overall ended up pretty much with the same result as the fixed lot trade. It didn't really the net result of this strategy was that it made more losing trades than it did winning, so it ended up with a loss as well. So there's no significant difference between these two in this scenario, but martingale performed better because it managed to ignore all these losses, increased its risk to as much as $320, and then recovered its losses very quickly. which is why a lot of people go for a strategy like this. Now we come to the next scenario, scenario 3, and when we have 1 win in the beginning and followed by 6 losses. And now we see where the disadvantages of using martingale. That in this case it just completely destroyed the entire account, so it did risk $10 in this case, and then eventually increased it all the way to 640 and completely destroyed the account and actually went into negative. The fixed lot obviously made a loss in this case because there were many more losing trades and they were winning, and ended up with a net balance of 930 and a loss of -70. The percentage risk, the fixed risk of 1% of the account, actually performed better in this case because it has been reducing its exposure, and it gained from this win, and eventually ended up with a slightly higher profit just for this scenario. So what we have in our final 4th scenario is, what if we have a highly successful strategy? What if a strategy just like wins every time? So in this case, martingale does not help you. It simply trades one fixed lot because it doesn't make a loss, so it doesn't increase its exposure to recover them, and it performs exactly the same as fixed lot. And you have 7 winning trades, you have $70 gained, and on the other hand, the fixed risk percentage actually gains from the fact that that the strategy is successful. It gradually increases its risk, the amount that risk per trade, and you can see in this case it gained extra $2, which is not significant in this case, but if you think about it in terms of percentage, it does add up over time. So just to sum this all up, the effect of money management methods largely depends on the sequence of losing trades and the length and the frequency of losing streaks. So if it will essentially depends on the distribution of your losing trades, whether they are randomly distributed or whether they come in a sequence, and how long that sequence is. And as you can see through this 4 scenarios, different money management performs differently and the different lost trades distributions. So fixed lot is pretty much unaffected by the way loss trades are distributed. If you have more winning trades than you have losing trades, then you obviously make money with fixed lots, and it's as simple as that. The martingale compensates for short-term losses. So if you have 2 losing trades in a row or 3 losing trades in a row, then martingale will compensate for that and will actually perform better than a fixed lot. But if you have a long losing streak like 10 trades, then it will destroy the account as a result. And the fixed risk suffers from losing streaks more than a fixed lot, but also gains from winning streaks much more than the fixed lot as well. So depending on how exactly your underlying strategy trades will affect your choice of money management as well. And we will get back to this slide in a moment. So basically it's the same as you've seen before. If you lose 20%, you need to make 25% to regain, and if you lose 50%, you need 100 to double your account to regain. And essentially this is why you take care of your losses, and the profits will take care of themselves. It's just a saying that may be familiar to some of you. So this has been pretty much the theory of money management. And again, if you have any questions on anything so far, please feel free to ask them in Q&A at the top. Otherwise, I'll move on to actual practical implementation of it and see the effect of it in a real situation. So going back to our website, so we just go, in this case, we just go to open FxPro Quant. So this is the Royal RSI strategy. This is something you might find in our EA library. It's a simple strategy based on single indicator RSI. If RSI goes above 70, it sells. If it goes below 30, it buys, and it closes its trades in between. So it's a very simple strategy, but in this case we're more interested in money management and its effect on it. So this is a fixed lot ROSI, so all it does is just trades one lot every time. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward to implement, and we don't have to save because we already had it. So we have 3 of them, so this will be the fixed lot, this will be the fixed risk, and this is the martingale. Alright, we should wait for all 3 of them to load. So fixed lot is a simple strategy, unaffected. We don't have to do any calculations. So this is the fixed risk percentage. What we'll do in this case, if we want to calculate lots depending on our account balance, is we take the from the info section, we take the account balance node, and from that we apply to it our arithmetic calculation. We just apply from Math Basic. We take the arithmetic node, and this is what it is. We just take the account balance and divide it by 10,000. Just to think of it as an example, so if you have a 10,000 account, you essentially trade one lot. And if you have 20,000 account, you trade 2 lots, and so on. And it simply divides this number by 10,000, and then feeds that directly into lot parameter. So you can see in this case, the lots are not a fixed number, but a calculated lot. It just comes directly from the arithmetic node and goes into both your sell and your buy node. It's pretty straightforward, just a modification on a normal fixed lot strategy. And martingale can also be implemented. Just in this case, I probably have to put it to full screen for it to be visible. So what we'll see is we, in this case, we look at if our trade exists, and we using the variable nodes in this case. We use the number variable, and we remember what was the lot size of existing trade and what was the profit of existing trade. We save them into variables. In this case, we double our lot. So if the trade exists, we amend this double lots variable by taking the lot size of the open trade and multiplying it by 2 using an arithmetic node. So we have our double lots. And we also remember the profit of the trade as well. So we only update these variables if the trade exists. So effectively, as soon as we close the trades, we no longer update them. So this way, when you're about to open a new trade, so in this case you see RSI above 70, so we have our signal to sell. We check if the last trade was profitable before we closed it. So if it was profitable, we follow this path, and we just sell the initial lot. We just sell it one lot. And if the trade was not profitable, then we this is where we check it. If we check if the previous profit was greater or equal to 0. So if the trade was not profitable, then we sell the double lots, and we just use this calculated value, and whichever was our previous lot, we simply double it every time. So this is the basic implementation of martingale inside the FxPro Quant. So what I did then is downloaded all these 3 strategies, got them to MT4 and back tested them. I think you should know how it's done by now. If not, then this procedure has been covered in some of our previous webinars, and you can go back and look through those recordings if you wish. So we can just go and look directly at the results. So in this case, this will be this ROSI strategy back tested on EURUSD 1 hour, and using the fixed lot in this case. You can see this is the net profit, 9,300, and profit factor is close to 2. Performs well overall, but what we care about in this case is comparison. So we look at how does it compare with a fixed risk. So in this case, fixed risk actually performed better in terms of net profit, but worse in terms of profit factor. So it was making bigger losses and bigger gains. So it overall gross profit in this case was 19,000, and in this case was 27,000. But also the gross loss was minus 10,000 in this case, and minus 15, and in here. So it performed essentially gained more money, but was the actual stability of the balance was not quite as good. So it was profit factor is a bit worse here. This was because it had a losing streak in the beginning, and the system suffered a bit more from that. And you can see also the difference on the graph is that you see the lot size here, and lot size kept changing through the strategy. It was going up and up, and in the backtest results you can see as it was making losses, the lot size was dropping, and as it was making profits, the lot size was increasing and going up all the way up to 2.5 lots in this case. So this is the effect. This is how you can compare the two in the case when the strategy does make money. And if you switch to martingale, well, you can see it performed even better. It produces 14,000 profit, and the profit factor is a lot better in this case. And you can see the effect every time it made a loss, it did a double lot, and made a loss again, and did a double lot to recover. And you can see the balance of the account doubles every time, and you can also see the lot size changing. So in this case it goes up, and eventually it makes a profit, and it drops down again. So in some cases we went down to 4 lots, like for example here, and probably in some other cases, and here as well. So you can see any loss to the balance was quickly recovered, so it went here down, so it was 22,000, went to 21, 20, and then recovered to 23. So that's effectively how martingale works. It doubles the lot size and recovers the losses. So everything is good so far. Once again, this is taking the same strategy taken for the period where it was profitable, and you simply, in this case, martingale simply helps you to hide these losses, short-term losses, by recovering them immediately. Now we do run the same strategy, but deliberately on a time frame where it doesn't work. So we run the same strategy on 50-minute time frame where it's meant to be unprofitable, and we'll compare the 3 methods in the same situation again. So first of all, fixed lot. It is made a loss as it was expected because it's 50-minute time frame. The strategy wasn't designed for that. So it made a loss of 4,500, and was trading fixed lot every time. Made a lot more losing trades, of course, and that's why this is the loss we get. For the fixed risk, we can see that it actually in this case lost a little bit more, and because it had a long losing streak, but it also was not stable, so it was not constantly dropping its lot size. So you see it was decreasing in some cases and then increasing again, and overall it did suffer a bit more in this case, and we made a slightly higher loss than the fixed lot. Now that when we switch to martingale, we'll see the effect of that here. Well, in this case we had a losing streak, and we just destroyed the entire account. So it was about around trade number 20. So you can see it went 1 lot, 2 lot, 4, 8, and then eventually the account could not handle it, and then eventually you got margin called on this backtest, and the entire account was lost, and basically I think $100 left at the end of it. And eventually just the system just stopped out. So this is the effect, the downside of using martingale. It performs better when the strategy is doing well in good times, essentially, but it doesn't allow you to survive through bad times. So if you have a bad strategy, then it makes a bad strategy worse. So hopefully this illustrates quite graphically the effect of using different money management and applying them to your existing strategy, as well as how to do the actual implementation of it as well. So if you have any questions on anything covered so far, or anything to do with money management, please feel free to ask them in Q&A. I think we pretty much covered most of the material so far, and we're coming up to half an hour, so any last moment questions, feel free to ask them right now. I guess in that case everything was clear. See, there are no questions, so we'll just wrap this up then. If you have any questions on anything after this webinar is finished, to do with EA Quant or EAs in general, or money management specifically, as was the topic of this webinar, please feel free to send them to easupport@fxpro.com. If you have any comments or suggestions on this webinar, or suggestions for future webinars, please feel free to send those to webinar@fxpro.com as well. And just one more thing before we leave, I can just show you that if you just search for FxPro marketing and go to our YouTube channel, which will be YouTube FxPro marketing right here. You can go to the webinar playlist at the bottom and see the recordings of all the past webinars, and you'll obviously see the recording of this webinar as well shortly after it's finished. So you can just go and rewatch all of them and get the material from there. And also on our homepage, if you go to Help Center, you can go inside Watch and Learn section and see the webinar section and see the recordings of all the webinars as well. And the same goes whenever you going through the entire list of future webinars. I just go look at previous ones and then we'll show you the recording. So if you're interested in signing up to our future webinars, the next one will be just going through the entire SCCI MACD strategy, which was developed in Quant, and we'll be just going through each component of it and how to implement it. And the one following on Monday will be by Simon Smith on current foreign exchange fundamentals. So feel free to sign up to any of them if you feel like it. So as I see there are still no questions in the Q&A, I'd just like to thank you for your time, and I hope I see you in our future webinars, and have a nice day.